Welcome back to the news, ladies and gentlemen. Today we got Miss Lori Vallow still in court. It's actually wild right now. So the new update is that there's actually DNA found on the weapon that's suspected of being used on Kaylee. Now, let's check this shit out, see what's going on.
And what do you observe in States Exhibit 36, or, I'm sorry, States Exhibit 201I?
That is a photograph of that material on the back of the shovel, now removed from the shovel and taken by itself.
And what do you observe in States Exhibit 201J?
This is a photograph of that material underneath the stereo microscope, and the area outlined with the blue box indicates the portion that I took for DNA testing.
So there's some material that they get off of this shovel, right? And they first take pictures of it on the shovel as is, then they extract it. Now, in this day and age, it's crazy. You can't get away with anything. Now, they're going to show you later on how precisely they know it's her DNA.
There's something labeled green material. Do you know what that is?
I do not.
Okay, so you didn't test that material.
No.
Does the Idaho State Forensic Lab, do you test any materials?
Like trace analysis?
Yes.
We do not have a trace section at our laboratory.
Okay. In regards to item 36.3, were you able to obtain a DNA profile?
I was.
How did you do that?
Now, this is where it gets crazy. She's going to briefly explain to you how they create a DNA profile and how they can compare it to something they already have. And, I mean, the science of today, like I said, you're not getting away with anything, y'all.
DNA testing begins with identifying a sample that you want to run for DNA. I then take a portion of that sample and put it into a tube with unique case identifiers on it. I then break open all the cells to release the DNA, and then I determine how much DNA is present in the sample, called quantification. From there, we copy the specific locations of DNA that make our forensic DNA profile. And I then visualize those copies, which look like peaks on a graph. Once I have my DNA profiles for a case, I can begin to make my comparisons.
Okay.
So she'll get both DNAs. She'll do her quantification process, basically making it. She'll find how much DNA she has, blah, blah, blah. And when she gets that visual graph and she gets that other visual graph, they'll line up.
Did you receive any known DNA profiles prior to your testing?
Yes.
Who did you receive known DNA
Tylee,
profiles
of course.
For me specifically, I received a sample from Chad Daybell, a sample from Melanie Gibb, and a sample from Richard Mao. The laboratory itself also received other reference samples.
Okay, and did you receive any other known samples from within your lab?
Yes, from J.J. Vallow, from Tylee Ryan.
J.J. Tylee.
From Lori Vallow, and I believe Dennis Trahan.
Okay, so this item,
Dennis Trahan.
I'm going to put this back up. This item in 201J was located on the back of that shovel. After you obtained a DNA profile, did you compare it to any other known profiles?
I did.
Did you find any match? Or what did your comparison show?
I like how the lawyer, he's strategically asking that question because he doesn't want them to object to anything. So he's like, let me rephrase it before they even object to me.
The DNA profile obtained from item 36.3.5.
I'm just getting started and I need to save money. Inkfile gave me the best service for the best price.
As a freelancer, the low startup
Matched that obtained from the reference sample of Tylee Ryan. This DNA profile is at least 604 octillion times more likely to be seen if Tylee Ryan is the source than if
604 octillion times more likely to be her. So basically, I don't even think there's not. There's not even 604 octillion. There's not even trillion on the planet. It has to be her, unless there's like aliens we're including that we don't even know about yet.
an unrelated, randomly selected individual from the general population is the source.
Okay. Can you say that number one more time?
604 octillion.
How many zeros is octillion?
27.
Okay.
27, and I think it's 8 from trillion. So after you get to trillion, you start counting up the octillion chart. Illion, zillion, like it's crazy. I had to look up that number. Wild. So it's her. 100,000% her. I can't even 604 octillion% her. You know what I mean?
Can you tell me about lab item 36.1?
It is a pickaxe from that bag of tools.
Can you tell me what you observe in States Exhibit 201K?
This is a photo of the pickaxe that I took and is labeled 36.1.
Okay. And what, if anything, did you do with this tool?
I tested it for blood and also examined debris and foreign material that I collected from the eye of the pickaxe.
They're so correct because they want this to go down. You know, the foreign material, oh, this material. They're not saying, oh, yeah, the brains that I tested, that probably hacked their shit up. No, they're very professional. And this is why, you know, they spend that much time in law school, I guess.
And can you tell the jury what you observe in States Exhibit 201L?
This is a photograph of the head of the pickaxe. The circle in the center is referred to as the eye of the pickaxe. And when examining it, there was brown colored dirt.
I have a hammer / pickaxe. I don't know where it is. I'll show you guys next time. But the eye of it is like a little hole, and it's like the little balanced area of the pickaxe, I believe.
Present, which you see on the left side of the photo, that was on the outside. And then when that was removed, there was a much darker material present around the eye in that area, which I collected, and that's more in the center of the photograph. So
right in the eye area where that little hole is, when they removed the debris, some dark material, and you know that's probably blood. Is probably what she was thinking also.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as States Exhibit 2010. Oh. Is that the same pickaxe?
Yes, it's a close-up of that material still present on the eye that you can see kind of, you know, where it was located.
And perhaps you already answered it, but what was the difference between, I'm going to point at this material here and this material there?
The material on the left looked more like dirt. That's not anything that's a scientific conclusion. That's apparent, that appears visible to me. And then the material in the center was very dark, and it was it had an oily texture. When it was removed from the eye of the pickaxe, the metal ring appeared to have kind of a dark, greasy ring around it. And then in the material were some larger fragments.
Oh, so it was like really brains and like blood and like whatever, you know, in there. And you know when blood gets dried, it's like crimson and sticky and yeah.
You tell me what you observe in States Exhibit 201N, as in November.
These are the larger pieces of fragments that I removed from that dark kind of black material from the eye of the pickaxe. And then at the bottom, that blue line is pointing to the piece that I selected to photograph and run for DNA.
Can you tell me what you observe in States Exhibit 201P?
This is a view of that material underneath the stereo microscope, and the blue box represents the area I ran for DNA.
Were you able to obtain a DNA profile from that subject matter?
I was able to obtain a partial DNA profile from this item.
And what do you mean by a partial DNA profile?
For a DNA profile, we look at 24 locations, and there are times when we do not have enough DNA or the DNA is degraded, and we get results for just some of the locations, and that's referred to as a partial DNA profile.
That's crazy how they have portions of DNA that you can identify. Like they can break you down and say, yeah, that's you. 604 octillion %, that's you.
Right. And are you still able to do a comparative analysis with a partial DNA profile?
For this partial profile, yes.
Okay. And is it accepted in the scientific community to do a comparative analysis with a partial profile?
Yes.
Okay. What were the results? Well, what known samples did you compare this against?
I compared it against the known samples previously mentioned from this case.
Okay. So can you just say it again for the record, which names
Yes.
those would be?
Well, so in this case, the DNA profile obtained was a female.
She's not trying to go through all these names again. She's like, yes, it's Kaylee. That's it. That's all we need to know.
In that case, we would just make comparisons to the female references. So I compared it to Lori Vallow and Tylee Ryan.
I keep calling her Kaylee. It's Tylee.
And I believe, I'm not sure if at this time we had the reference sample from Melanie Gibb. I'm not sure.
Okay. From your comparative analysis, did you come to any conclusions?
Yes.
What were those?
What was that?
Tylee Ryan is a potential contributor to this partial DNA profile. This DNA profile is at least 159 trillion times more likely to be seen if it originated from Tylee Ryan than if it originated from an unrelated, randomly selected individual from the general population.
Hold on now. Those numbers are going down when you start to compare them. I thought you said Octillion. What happened to Octillion? Am I the only one that's tripping, or? Trillion is still good, but, you know.
Did you do any other testing on item 36.1?
Yes, there were some stains that tested presumptively positive for blood on the handle.
Can you
That's
describe?
crazy. He killed her with a pickaxe. Now, I don't think Lori did it. I think her little psycho cult leader husband did, and was like, yeah, because they have he had steps of goodness, and you can label somebody like 22G or 14B, just some crazy nutty shit, and you can label people on how holy or unholy they are. And he had deemed Tylee as low on the spectrum, as unholy. So he was all up in Lori's head, like, yeah, she's unholy. You might. So I guess he was saying you might have to offer like this unholy people, you know, oh well. And then later on, there's a pickaxe. There's a pickaxe that goes at her. That's pretty barbaric, if you say so the least.
What you observed in States Exhibit 201M.
These are the two areas that tested positive, or two of the areas that tested positive on the handle.
What did they test positive for?
Blood.
Okay. And were you able to do any further testing on those samples?
Yes, I swabbed those samples and ran the entire swab for DNA.
Okay. Were you able to obtain a DNA profile from those samples?
I was.
Okay. Did you do that in the same manner in which you've described preparing a DNA profile before?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
And who was it?
And were you were able to obtain a profile?
Yes.
Did you do any comparative analysis with that profile against other known profiles?
Okay, yes, and it was Tylee. This dude is taking forever. He's doing it for the record. He's letting the record reflect, but yeah. Pretty wild. So the story is unfolding, you know. It's obviously her. Now we're just going to find out all the twisted, sick shit that was involved in it. So if you guys like that, hit the like, subscribe at the end. Love y'all. See you in the next one, and until then, peace. Stay safe out there.